Hi, this is Folake, and why haven't you subscribed to Benhildah Antonio's YouTube channel? Where I just learned something interesting today. Do you know the title we give to somebody who studies birds? That's Benhildah. For more exciting YouTube content, you need to hop on now, subscribe, like, click, comment.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. So something exciting is happening. It just sprung on me this morning and I was like, why not vlog it? By the title of the video, you already know what's happening. I am going for a radio interview for work. It's like around 6:30 in the morning. My guitar trained. There's no more. And funny enough, I'd forgotten to charge my laptop, and then now I have somewhere to go and charge my laptop. So as soon as I'm back, I'm coming back home, and then I'm just gonna start work. So yeah, let's go get ready, because they sent me questions that I need that I'll be answering. So I need to just draft my answers so that I'm not stammering. Hi guys, so I'm done getting ready. Yeah, I just figured it's better to be early than to be late. So it's 8 o'clock now. I stay in Shtungbisa, so it's very easy for me to get to the studio. So I would rather be early and wait in Daily Coco and while looking at the questions than be late. What did I say? So this is my outfit of the day. Just wearing a hoodie, flannel, and some jeans. Yeah, something simple. The worst thing might be happening. I didn't want to be late, guys. Yeah. Imagine that I'm coming at 8, but right now it's like 1:45, and I still have to walk to the studio. But when I put it anyway, so I'm now Simon Mazoro. I'm just gonna walk, guys. This is crazy. I'm so annoyed. I think I made it. Oh my gosh, the sun is behind me. But yeah, I think I made it. Let me show you guys. Abba. I'm going to Capitalk.
Capitalk? Yeah. No program none?
Nah, Folake.
Folake?
Yeah.
Thursday would not be Thursday without all the laughs and the giggles that the Champions League breakfast team always make sure that you and I get to eat later. Sindongotanga nokuti wamukase. Always a pleasure hanging out with you. Dwetu wachana chadagi ndimadhube zvake vabuya zvatoitaka every mid-morning from 9 up to 12. So if you ever looked up and wondered, oh, where did that bird come from? That one that you're seeing in the sky. Here in Zimbabwe, some of the birds that are gliding silently in our beautiful skies, above our fields, across our rivers, past our highways, have traveled over 14,000 kilometers to get here. Some of them are coming from the steppes of Mongolia, across the warm winds of India, over oceans and deserts. They find rest right here in Zimbabwe. In our eucalyptus trees, in our wetlands, and sometimes even perched right above window renyu rekumba. Sometimes it's actually on your combi window as you are going to Rua. These are known as migratory waterbirds, sky travelers who don't carry passports but are crossing over 100 national borders without a visa. And they've chosen us, Zimbabwe, as part of their great journey. Today on Green Morning, we're not just talking about birds. No, we are talking about who we are, what we value, and how we as a country fit into the story that's stretching across continents. Right now, as you and I speaking, Zimbox is holding a critical workshop that's crafting Zimbabwe's position on international agreements called AEWA. That's the Agreement on Conservation of African Eurasian Migratory Birds. A bit of a mouthful, but I'll tell you why this matters. So this agreement is actually going to be the glue that's holding together efforts from, listen to this, 118 countries across Europe, Asia, Middle East, Bomba, and Africa. All in the spirit to protect the birds that are moving between our lands. Wetlands, rivers, forests, cliffs, these are the fuel stations, their hotels, and even their nurseries. And Zimbabwe, well, we're not just sitting in the stands. We're also on the pitch. Can you imagine, since 2012, we've been one of the countries taking the task with keeping birds safe on their journey. If you've migrated before, you might also agree that migration is not a holiday. It is survival. These birds will face threats like storms, predators, exhaustion, and then there are human dangers. Iswanayara tembo, shumba mrawi, vanabvudzi jena. They're also experiencing habit loss, pollution, hunting, pesticides, and power lines that are cutting across their flight paths. And here's something you might not have known. In Zimbabwe, we have over 670 bird species, and of those, 140 are migratory. That's 140 species whose fate, whose very lives are partly in you and I's hands. Let's take one example. The Amur falcon breeds in Mongolia and rides the monsoon winds across India, feasting on migrating dragonflies mid-air. And finally making their way right here in Harare. It's actually one of our most elegant visitors, and you might not even know it. If you look for your tall eucalyptus tree, yeah, just above you. These flyways sit right along some of the most important ones in the world. But this story goes beyond science. It's also touching something very ancient in who we are. Munom Zimbabwe. Tinabo kawana ungwe. Vanadziva. We have long known these birds are more than just feathers and flight. Birds carry meaning, messages. Dare I say, they're family. And just like family, they also need care, protection, and respect. So today we are joined by two special voices. First, an environmental journalist by the name John Kasim. He wrote a recent story that actually sparked something in us, and this is why we've had to pause and take a look. We're also meeting Benhildah Antonio. She's coming from BirdLife Zimbabwe. She is a young conservation biologist. If you were listening to the quiz this morning on our sister station, what do you call the study of birds? And what do you call the person who studies birds? 0719-100-404. She's also the current Preventing Extinction Programs Officer at BirdLife Zimbabwe, working on vulture conservation in Zimbabwe. Benhildah, it's so exciting to have you on Capitalk to discuss something, even for me, that I'd never actually taken the time beyond kungoona shiri kuzveko kana kuzona matota aiswa pamota kana kuti uchifamba wozona juzi rati ai ko zvazviizvi. Dare I say, if you're sitting outside in the sun and you're eating, and then the bird decides to do its due on your food, that can be the absolute...
That would be tragic.
Absolutely tragic. But
that would be tragic.
This is what you want to ukaitigwa matoto, ukaitigwa shinaneshiri. It means something, right? Culturally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do they say?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. So yeah, we do have a very strong link between us and birds and our environment in general. They believe that takabvira udhara chiudzo ranzi ukaitwa matoto neshiri, and it's a sign of good luck, you know, and that's beautiful. Imagine uchingozvifambirawo zvako yobva yatongo, to you it feels like woman, hey, but you know, our ancestors taught us that means good luck. Kwauri kuenda ukoko, you know, something good is going to happen to you.
I love this. And interestingly, if you also dream dreams of that sort of dirt, it actually doesn't mean what it feels like it means. It's actually also good fortune. Isn't that
yes, yeah, it is.
Fascinating.
It is.
Anyway, before we get stuck in dirt this morning, let's talk exactly about where conservation is meeting science. We're going to try call John again. We're having a little bit of challenges connecting with him. We are learning that there is this interesting organization that's come together, AEWA. And we are here as Zimbabwe. We are part of that since 2012. And I love this about our country. You know, especially when it comes to environmental conversations. Zimbabwe, and I love this foresight. But vazhinji vedu hatizivi kuti AEWA chii. Asi ke zvinopano zvakawanda zviri kuitika pamusaka peAEWA. Let's start there, from where you are sitting. And by the way, what did we say a person who studies birds is called? What is the study of birds? 0719 100 404 AEWA. Benhildah.
All right, so AEWA spelled AEWA. So that's the Agreement on the Conservation of African Eurasian Waterbirds. So it came into force around 1999. And then, as you said, we jump onto things. We are a very active country. So we jumped on in 2012. So basically, it's a conglomerate of different countries, different organizations coming together to protect waterbirds and their habitats. So their habitats being wetlands. And there are many forms of wetlands. That's another discussion. But what we are saying is that we want to come together because these birds don't have borders, you know, and they cross our countries, five different countries, 10 different, 30, 40 different countries just to get to their destination. So we need to come together to conserve these birds. So now, if we in Africa are doing our own thing, then Europe is doing its own thing, we might miss each other. So it brings us together, a cohesive agreement on actions that we should take to conserve our birds, to conserve our environments, and then also how we can pass that information to other people as well through education and awareness.
I love this. You said, you know, these birds, and I think we also said this, they're traveling at least 14,000 kilometers. Because look at narufamba muna samu mazoro dzekuti Mongolia iripi unogona kutadza kudaira mvunziwe, but shiri dziri kuziva kune Mongolia and they end up muno muZimbabwe kuruwa. How on earth do you track these birds' journeys? How do you know this?
Yeah, so it's interesting, hey? It's interesting just to know how a bird movements. So we do what is called tagging, or putting satellite tags on birds. So we capture them in very nice way. No birds are harmed during the process. We measure them, their weight, their height, and then we attach a GPS tracker on them that is aligned with their weight and their size so that they don't get uncomfortable or overweight by the tracker. And then this tracker now, we can now access it. We all know about technology, how beautiful it is. You can easily access it wherever you are. So as long as this bird is flying about and it is picked up by satellite trackers, we can actually see where it is going and where it is coming from. And you know, as Zimbabwe, we are trying as well to be tagging our own birds. We have started voucher tagging. And we're seeing incredible movements of vouchers. You know, you take a voucher here in Zimbabwe, by tomorrow it's already in Botswana or it's already in Namibia.
Wow.
That's incredible. So that's
Wow.
how we know where these birds are going.
Wow.
Yeah.
In Shikura, Benhildah, and I think even now as an adult, one of my most interesting life lessons with my dad, have been in the car. My dad's very philosophical also. And it's because he used to tell us stories of how Sekuru wangu vama bibi, would have a tractor, so he would be seated on the tractor, but so he uses that opportunity. And growing up, kuti kana chinzi pane nzengo nzendo chaenda kwagutu chaenda kwamutare chaenda kuchipinge zvamai vangu kwaiva nasekuru vangu Edson tairongedze gwambuva and munoziva kuti mota muchaizwa nena Jakata muchaizwa naJimmy Cliff, it's an experience. And I don't know if you're listening in, if you remember mazuva elaybys taitomira palaybys totola mbuva wedu uya rice nedovini nyama yakagochwa nemabutternut. I'm also taking down memory lane.
Wow.
So I'm asking this as you're listening in, when we are looking at the migratory journey of birds, what is it like for them? Do they have a team leader who's then saying, right, our next stop, next stop is because they seem to move in some sort of harmony and synchronicity.
Yes.
Yeah, talk to us about what you can tell so far.
Yeah, so absolutely. So vanotomira vototi nhasi tinomira pakati. So let me just say, migration, there's different forms of migration, but we're going to talk about what they call the true migration, where a bird can come from Ethiopia to Zimbabwe. So they have their stopping sites, or refueling sites, you might want to call them. So, and it's fascinating that there are some studies that have actually seen that these birds that have completed a full migration cycle, maybe 2 or 3 times, they have one stopping site or 2 particular stopping sites in the hachinji. And munoona. So maybe ichibva ikoko kuEthiopia ka ikatodecide kuti pane painomira paDRC anditi pa same place ipapo, that next migration yaichaita inomira futi pa same place ipapo kusvika yasvika kuno kuZimbabwe. And then panyaya yekuti coordination, they are very coordinated. Birds are very smart. They are very intelligent. So I know you have noticed this. They fly in a V formation. You have seen that, right?
Yes.
And wakambona shape yemota dzedu kuti dzinenge dzakaita kakuita kamhino so dzichita cut across the wind.
Right.
So that
Dynamics, what?
exactly wakafunda. So that's what birds use as well. They don't want to exhaust themselves, so they have a leader anenge ari pamberi achiflyer, and then they fall in line, right, to just cut across the wind so that they don't get tired. And then achiflyer kudaro iri pamberi ikaneta, they actually switch, and then another bird comes in front, vachingodaro dzakangwara zvisingaiti shiri dzedu dzakangwara zvisingaiti.
So they have some sort of sophisticated communication between them.
Yes, definitely. Like all animals communicate, even trees. Funny enough.
So that one is a conversation we've had, and I would love to keep having this. So do the birds also communicate with the trees? Because we hear trees themselves emit scents and chemicals.
Yes. And also they apparently they emit frequencies that are very low, that isusu with our own ears atinzwi. And there's actually a study on trees emitting frequencies, communicating. Ikatotemwa inotochema kutoti ndatemwa. Anyway, coming back to birds, that would be an interesting study actually to see if they can communicate with trees. Wow. I don't know how we'll do that, but that would be incredible.
It's Capitalk 100.4 FM. Harare is happy as always. We are discussing our living planet. Always just amazed. I don't know how you're coming together to say, listen, these animals, like we've seen with our elephants, havana ma visa, ma passport, azviko zvinizvo zhizhi. And so what do we do as the guardians of the earth to make sure that wherever the birds are coming from and having to travel, we make sure that travel is smooth? So cool, birds are coming in, that stop is gone. Now imagine the confusion and what was happening. We're going to keep talking about this so we can understand what happened. So, Benhildah, how then does bird life, because you also mentioned something that's also happening in our country, the Ramsar Convention, Vic Falls. How then does bird life Zimbabwe involve, how are you involved in AEWA plus Ramsar or even CITES?
All right. So these are all treaties that are helping us or guiding us into conservation of birds and their habitats in Zimbabwe. So interestingly, Ramsar, so for those who want to know what Ramsar is actually, because we have been seeing a lot of articles saying Ramsar. What is Ramsar? You know, so Ramsar, it was a convention that was signed to actually protect wetlands of international importance. And in Zimbabwe, it's in 7, including Victoria Falls, obviously. And then we have Driefontein grasslands, Kwagutuku. It's a nice, beautiful place in one Kwashiri cranes. So, so we are hosting. Amazingly, we are hosting the Ramsar Convention, the 15th COP, here in Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls, on the 23rd to the 31st of July. And then the theme is just protecting wetlands for our future, you know. And I think as Zimbabwe, we want to be part of the movement of conservation. And this convention is actually a beautiful start because kwanisa kuunganidza nyika dzakawanda nema-organizations akawanda kungoti ngatitaure zvematoro. It's a big thing. And we as a country as well, it shows that we are taking wetland conservation seriously. And then just jumping onto AEWA, it's the same thing. We are moving together in the same direction with other organizations and other countries, because what we have noticed with birds is that, like you say, they don't have passports. You know, Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa. Birds don't know that. They just move when they want to move. When it's time for migration, when it's wintering time in their grounds, and then they want to come summer in Africa, they start moving. They don't even know they've left Europe. They are now in Africa. They just know the environment. So now we want to have that consensus when we are managing our areas, because if us as Zimbabwe chete tikati tisiri kukonzerva matoro chete tisiri kungona zvebird conservation, hazvibatsire if the next country, if South Africa is not doing the same thing, hazvibatsire if Mozambique or Zambia is not doing the same thing, because pane mathreats anozowanikwa manje ekuti kuno kuZimbabwe our area is fine, everything is good, no one is cutting down trees, everything is beautiful. We are living in harmony. But in other countries now, they are not living in harmony. You know, varku tema miti, varku harvesta mabeds achona and all those things. And those things actually threaten our birds, because they use these, like you were talking about, those migratory routes, those stopover sites. They are very important. So we need to work together, and that's the importance of these conventions and these treaties.
You know what you're saying is making sense, why countries then become signatories to things like the Ramsar Convention, vana AEWA, vana CITES. Ndikufunga kuti saka idzo dzinobva kwadzajara nditi stopover yaya layby 400 meters hapachina. What do they do? But also I'm understanding why then as countries it's important for us to coordinate whatever we do and say these areas are protected so that those birds don't struggle. But in the event that some development has happened on the wetland, shiridziya dzadzajaira kuti stopover iri pakati hapachina stopover dzodipa dzinosvika kuti yesvo kuzva zvachinja.
Yeah, you know, that's actually the question yatitori nayo nesuwo, kuti to what extent does this actually affect these birds? So what we know is that when they see kuti this area is now very disturbed, they move on to another area. So we actually have cases kuti a bird will be locally extinct in an area. Like I'll give you a case of the African data. It used to be like plenty of them in Lake Chivero. But these birds now, because Lake Chivero, we all know about the stories about Lake Chivero, the amount of pollution there, netting, fish bonga, you know, all those things. So these birds now, they were now very threatened because their way of hunting for fish is that they deep dive into the water and then they come out yakatobata fish. So now what was happening was when it took its dive, these are some of the threats. So these birds now, you go there, you won't find them. The water is now too dirty for them. Lake Chivero has lost some birds. They don't go there anymore. So it's like these birds will look for other places to go. And this will be affecting them. And we also want to know like to what extent this is happening. And we know that wetlands in Zimbabwe actually like they are threatened, all of them.
Yeah.
As long as it's not in a protected area, as long as wetland risiri muHwange National Park, risiri Manapus, ritori under threat. Because munhu anongoriona apa akatoti indorima.
Mabagwa angu nemabura angu
zvinonyatsobuda. Munhu obva atoti aiwa inini ndoisa nzimbe dzangu pano, munhu otorima.
Nepwa.
Handi muri kuona ototanga kutotengesa juni uno izvezvo vanhu vari kutotengesa nzimbe dzavo neipwa handiti mukuona. But we are forgetting about the birds that actually use this area.
So how can we restore wetlands? And I know bird life now it's actually making so much sense to me, because I'd always wanted to but it's actually making sense to me. So how are we restoring wetlands?
Okay, so in Zimbabwe, let me just say, why do we look at birds? So birds are like flagship species. So what I mean by that is we use them to actually study other things, protecting them. When we protect them, we are also protecting other things. So now when we talk about birds, it's actually going down to also their habitats and what lives in their habitats as well.
Right.
So it's more like a holistic form of conservation, where we are saying birds are actually indicators of the health of an environment. Like I was saying, now panishiri that it's not require fresh water, and I mean by the strict sense of the word fresh. Fresh water to breed, fresh water to just live there. And now there are some areas where we don't find such birds. So this is why we study birds. And then why we are like talking about wetlands and all those things is because they use these habitats for breeding.
Right.
Even nyaya harvesting, ndosaka vanhu vachirambidzwa kuti aiwa musapote muchinotora huswa mumatoro aya, musarime mumatoro aya, because these birds are using this environment. So in Zimbabwe now, what we are trying to do is a form of restoration is through educating the communities that live close to these areas, and also just talking to our authorities, because there is a wetland policy that prohibits farming on wetlands, prohibits collecting of eggs of birds and all those things. So we are working together with our local communities, community-based organizations. We are working with Emma, we are working with Zimparks, we're working with even the police to just actually help kuti areas arambe ari intact. Vanhu vasarime muma wetlands, vanhu vasavake dzimba or mastoro avo muma wetlands. This is where we are coming from, and it's very hard to stop someone kuti usadya rapa. Iye achitoti inini chibage ichi ndatochirongera kuti ndoda uchidya. So it goes a long way. We are really trying. So it actually starts with educating people, because tikangozoyata nemapolicies netsamba dzedu dzemutemo kuti don't do this, people won't understand and they will fight back.
And in fact, I was actually going to ask mataura imi mukati kwagutu utori nematura ari kwafanga kuchengetedzwa. Ndinofunga kuti Ramsar ari kuyachetwa kuVic Falls. Vanhu vari kwagutu ike zvino vanofanga vari vachengetedzi venzvimbo iyoyi. There's a high probability that they may not even know that Ramsar is coming. There's an even lesser probability that they will end up in Vic Falls. There's even lesser probability that they will get to hear effectively the outcomes of the Ramsar Convention and how it's affecting them.
Yes, it's a problem. I think this is what we were talking about before the show, like how scientists are just talking to each other. We love to call it the converted preaching to the converted, and that's a major issue. But what we're gonna try to do, and you are right, kutoti munhu yari kwagututa azosvika kunosvika kuVic Falls itori nhoroondo. Saka what we will try to do as Bird Life is, once, even now when we are still doing our work, because we do have work that is happening, we communicate with people in Gutu. We have my CBOs Edu in Driefontein. We are communicating with them, telling them, okay, there's this convention that's happening, and also we as Bird Life, we are going to be representing them and their thoughts and their ideas and their concerns as well at the Ramsar Corp. So we are also going to come back kwavari with information kuti aiwa pai patikaenda kuVic Falls zvakazofamba zvakadai ende zvakazobuda zvakadai. I think ndo zvatichazama kuita. And also this is where you guys come in, the media. Kuti mungotibatsirawo kuti tifambise nyaya idzi muvanhu.
Got you. It's Capitalk 100.4 FM Harare Zabi. We're tracking the amazing journey of birds that travel across 118 countries from one place to the next, and how the world has said, listen, they're looking for better, greener pastures, they're looking for food. And, there is an organization that has been set up by United Nations Environmental Program to say, how do we as countries where we know that these animals are flying over and coming through, how do we work together to protect the pathways or the flyways of these particular animals? I was telling you that there was a journalist who started our interest in this discussion. John Kasim is online. John, good morning. Thanks so much for being online. Curious to know what inspired you to actually write this article on migratory birds in Zimbabwe. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me on the program, and thank you so much for following the Conservezim report. The report on the issue of the birds came when we realized that there was a commemorations of the freshwater birds that are migratory, and there's less reported actually regarding these birds, and this is the reason why you find I, as a journalist, have been specializing on conservation reporting for close to 10 years now. So I know some of these issues. So as Benhildah has been saying here, that there is less information which is actually related to the people who look after the wetlands, benefit from the wetlands. They really think about the birds. So you find that people think about water and agriculture, but they really do think about the birds.
Yeah.
So we decided as the media, I'm one of those media practitioners who felt that there was a gap here and decided to specialize on conservation, including educating our farmers, our communities, that wetlands are very important, and the most and biggest beneficiaries of these wetlands are the creatures, the animals that are found there. Yes, as individuals want fresh water from there.
Yeah.
Very important. Show us when we are having a drought, when we are having good rain, when there is a poisoning in the water, birds are actually indicated.
I'm trying to imagine somebody who's listening in. John, why do you think Zimbabweans should care about this? And how do you then connect birds, wetlands, and also our economy? Because how do you, as someone who's developed this keen interest in reporting about birds, connect these dots?
Well, we are now coming up with what we call this reporting, the solutions. So it's called solution-based reporting.
Right.
Whereby you tell the story about the dangers of people using the wetlands, saving the wetlands, the farming on the streams, and coming with all sorts of issues like using chemicals, the Uyani poison, wetlands, killing the birds, and so forth. But at the end of the day, we then talk to the authorities within the communities. Like over the weekend, when Matebeleland visiting some of the wetlands, talking to farmers and seeing how they understand, and even if coming up with the alternatives. The main issue now for journalists or even the media at large is to understand that there has to be alternatives. Yes, we are talking of wetlands, how the destruction is contributing to the habitat of the birds and so forth. But what should farmers do if we tell them do not do anything to save the wetlands? They should be in alternatives. And this is what we are calling for our authorities now. When we report our stories, we also try to come up with alternatives in our stories so that people, they don't continue complaining, but say,
right.
Yeah, John Cassie.
Hey.
But then the story is also saying my council is very good to we are in other lands.
Right.
Cannot think boats away from the wetlands. Then we can some solar powered boats and so forth.
Got you.
The solution-based stories that we are also coming with, but we are also
got you.
Our community, the councils, the
yeah. Got you. So can you imagine, as you're listening in to Capitalk 100.4 FM Harare Zabi, this discussion around the protection of migratory birds is so important. You know, Belgium, they're having the 10th meeting of the AEWA European Goose Management International Working Group, IWG10. Vakagara ke zvino varume vakuru madzimai vakaita saBenhildah naJohn Kasim vachitaura nyaya dzamadhadha vachiti vanhu vakasiyana vane zvavari kurwisisa nezvematoro masango nei ngatigare pasi so that we can actually have a discussion around how we can protect geese. And I thought that was so fascinating to hear Shvanava. But when you think about it and having these conversations, it really does paint a bigger picture. Benhildah, I'm curious to hear from you. We too have our cultural approach to conservation, and for the longest time, and we've since discovered it's more spiritual, deeper than that. But how do you involve cultural education as part of conservation strategy? Because at the end of the day, and that means our strategy to how we then teach conservation must also speak to our culture. So how do you do this as a bird life?
Yeah, so we have my social groups at now in Harare and also in Bulawayo and other parts of Zimbabwe, where people can actually do anonzima bird walks. So you actually learn about birds. It's very interesting. It helps people to get bird conscious. And we also have a youth group, Zimbabwe, Harare, near Bulawayo as well, where we teach about bird conservation as well. And I understand, when we are talking about the cultural aspect, kune ma practices edataita anga akanaka ni ma beliefs anga akanaka, but on the other hand kune mango futi akatoshatawo futi ari kutotinetsawo isu se bird life futi naito tobatsirana sei kuti tite demystify some of my myths, because you get people who believe kuti there's a certain bird ukaiona pamba pako shiriyo iri kutokunzira message yerufu anchataura hangu kuti shiri ipi, but I know kuti vanhu vako vachatokuudza vanhu vako. But it's one thing to actually try and demystify and just bring people back to shiri kai yakatongofanana ne butterfly.
But what if that bird does actually carry that message? How would we incorporate it? Because example you've given is like trying to say kune munhu kumount nyangana kuyeri.
Yes.
Munhu motoita naro wenda sitakava wow vakaenda vakaita naro.
Vakasadzora ndizvozvo.
So how do we incorporate our values and our beliefs, but as part of conservation, rather than saying munhu aiwaka azviko, because akazokuratidza kuti zviriko unozodini.
Yeah. So what we are just trying to do is bring in the science. So we are looking at science-based solutions and science, just coming with my science facts. Kubasa I specialize in vulture conservation, and then what's it's one of the bulk issues of igora gondo is an eagle, and then gungondo redu ratinoona mazuva ese. So my vouchers anoshandiswa for yatinoti belief based use in a traditional medicine. Anditi tinoziva kuti hanzi gora rinodi. So we're just trying to bring the scientific side of things. Kuti no goraka parinoburuka, it can fly very, very high. It can fly up to 8 kilometers up in the sky. And richifly kudenga kudaro rine ziso rinoona 8 times more than the human eye. So you put that a high vintage point and then that good eyesight rinoona zvekutodaro. Saka it's not kuti rinorota kuti kune nyama kwakati, rinogona kutoburuka izvezvi richibva kuhwange uku rotosvika patriple C apa kunotoni within a couple of minutes.
Wow.
And that's incredible.
That is incredible.
It is incredible. So that's the science we're just trying to bring out. Guys,
So,
we have our culture, yes, but
yeah. I honestly think there shouldn't be a but. I think we've got to figure out the synergy.
yes, absolutely.
Because even with the fear we might have had of birds and snakes, and looking at even the endangered animals, and I wanted to ask you what's our endangered list like, it's actually still much more reasonable to other countries, but that's a conversation only because we don't have time. We can't get into it. Around your experiences, neshiri nematosi, my blacks murisezvanzi Folake indakatodonebwa musoro chaimo mama kaseta here my blacks pachine time yekuti set unoziva unenge wakwera musaluni uchibikwa musoro vobuda pazhe ungita imwe shiri nezvimwe zvivindi zvisingahwisisiki kuti mushakwaine kupiko yongo yawo yongokusiyirai kapresent mumusoro zvinoitavo here izvozvi. Have you also had any experiences with bird poop yourself as you were getting about your day? Did you laugh about it? Were you annoyed? Wakaita sei zvaitika kwauri? Makaseka here my blacks muri kokunotoni kana makabva mati akomana izvizvi hazvibviri? We were talking about the beautiful experience of birds as they surgeon through our beautiful skies from one area to the next, over our beautiful fields, across highways and oceans. And we're closing that discussion. And just in case you also want to encourage yourself and look into bird watching, perhaps there's an economic opportunity for you there. John, I'm going to start with John. John, you just...
That's www.conservezim.com. It's not Conserve Zimbabwe, it's Conservezim.
Conservezim.
We have a channel, WhatsApp channel. It's also Conservezim. Also Conservezim on Facebook. Conservezim on LinkedIn. So,
got you.
But any of those, including my phone number 0772 920301. 0772 920301. Kuti vari kuteerera kana vaine nyaya dzavanofila kuti dzinotoda kutonyorwa tibatei tinouya ikoko toongorora zvakamira sei amwe kuti nyaya dzakamira.
Got you. Thank you so much, John. It's absolutely amazing the effort that you put into this work. And of course, lastly but in no way least, Benhildah, I'm imagining someone who might be interested in becoming a bird expert like you, someone who's interested in bringing bird studies into schools. I'm thinking a bird conservation club sounds like a great idea. I'm almost sure, and we'll talk about this some other time, that there is possible some economic development, some empowerment, some money that could be made even from ecotourism through birds. How do we get a hold of you as BirdLife?
All right, so our address is we are at 35 Clyde Eastleigh, Muno Harare. And then also you can check our website. It's birdlifezimbabwe.org. And then on our Facebook, it's BirdLife Zimbabwe, Instagram, LinkedIn, BirdLife Zimbabwe, and also X, formerly Twitter, is also BirdLife Zimbabwe. You can just get in touch with us there. And then also how you can just be part of, our initiative is you can actually do bird watching. Urukumba kwenyu, download an app in the Merlin Bird ID. You can get it on Play Store, App Store, and then also inokubatsira kuziva shiri dzakasiyana siyana. It's a field guide that you can use on your phone, and then also you can record all the birds that you have seen on an app in the Bird Lasa. It's also found on Play Store and App Store as well. So in July, interestingly, we have anonzima biannual waterbird counts, so you can be part of that. Ungotora bird lasa yako pa phone pako apo wototanga kuti wotoendako pa damu renyu kana kuti pa pond yaunoziva chero matora unoziva wotomira ipapo wototanga kurekodha shiri dzawaona uchishandisa Merlin Bird ID wakutoitawo part of the work that we are doing.
And on that note, we are leaving this conversation tichazo inonga zvemberi tichidzidza zvakasiyana pamusaka peshiri and the different kinds of birds we have in this country. So tell me, outside madada, hanga, huku, because it's a form of a bird, right? Dzatoziva idzodzidzi. Can you look into the sky and be like, I know this bird and I know which country it's coming from? We're going to keep learning more around birds. That's all we have for Green Morning.
So I'm just done with my interview. It was great. It was really great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I've been so comfortable on radio now. I think it's my second time or third time on radio. But yeah, it was really great. I enjoyed. Like, oh my god. So let's go home. Let's go home. Let's go home. I just came out to close off the vlog. The interview was great. I enjoyed myself, and I hope we're gonna do more of these. I'm hopeful that we're gonna do more of these. And also on this channel, I wanted to actually incorporate conservation education, like just fun facts about the environment, you know, little things that you need to know about wildlife, about the environment, conservation, all those things. So I want to include it in my vlogs, maybe as a segment or as a separate sit down, whatever. Yeah, so please drop a comment about this interview, and anything that's new to you that you learned, just drop it in the comment section. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll see you on my next video. Bye.